Celtic society was made up of several different hierarchical groups. At the top were the rulers and elite warriors. Then there were the religious leaders, such as the Druids, and then followed by specialized craftsmen, traders, farmers, and slaves. The Celtic tribes were ruled by kings and chieftains, while others are said to be governed by oligarchic republican forms of government. In historical times, the office of High King and Low Kings in Ireland and Scotland were filled by elections under the system of tanistry. This system came into conflict with the feudal principle of primogeniture, in which succession goes to the firstborn son. The Druids were religious leaders of the Celtic communities. They were regarded as intermediaries between the gods and humans. The Druids enjoyed a high status in Celtic society, as evidenced in their exemption from military duties and taxes. Their status was emphasized by wearing distinctive long white robes. They were known for their great wisdom and knowledge of Celtic traditions. This knowledge was passed on to the novices, who spent 20 years acquiring the skills to become a druid. This instruction was done orally. Druids gave counsel to rulers, presided over courts of justice, deliberated on community conflicts, and made medicinal potions. Many religious ceremonies were led by Druids. The Celtic religion was polytheistic with many different gods. Our knowledge of Celtic religion mostly comes from classical sources, since the Celts lacked a written language. The common features of Celtic religion includes the reverence for sacred groves and other natural sites like rivers and springs, the dedication of votive offerings to gods such as foodstuffs, weapons, animal and human sacrifices, and the disposing of valuable and everyday goods with the deceased in the tombs, which indicates a belief in an afterlife. A belief in the protective power of totems, particularly animals like the stag and boar. Reverence for the human head, which was considered the location of the soul. The use of taboos to ensure compliance with religious and community rules. Key gods like Cernunnos were given all-embracing powers or characteristics. He was the horned god who represented nature and fertility. Another major figure was Lugus, who is the god that represents the sun and was regarded as all-wise and all-seeing. Lugus was universally worshipped in the Celtic world. There were many female goddesses associated with healing springs and rivers such as Sequana, a personification of the river Seine, and Epona, who was linked with horses. An unusual feature of Celtic gods was that some were viewed as a trio, perhaps representing three different aspects of the same divinity. One trinity example is the three mother goddesses, the Matronae, who represent individually the similar concepts of power, strength, and fertility. Of the numerous local and regional gods, many were associated with those things of primary concern to everyday life, such as warfare, sovereignty, tribal identity, healing, hunting, and the protection of specific groups like mothers and children. The figure similar to the Druid was the seer, who divined future events by interpreting natural phenomena such as the flights of birds and the entrails of sacrificed animals. Another important part of Celtic society were the bards. Bards, with their storytelling, poetry, and skill playing the harp, were greatly esteemed in Celtic culture. The bards sang praises of men of high status at Celtic feasts. They sang songs recalling tribal warriors' deeds of bravery as well as the genealogies and family histories of the ruling stratum on Celtic society. Bards facilitated the memorization of such materials by the use of meter, rhyme, and other formulaic poetic devices. Craftsworkers and artisans such as carpenters, potters, and weavers were essential to everyday life. Blacksmiths were essential to work iron, which needs a high level of technical skills to work compared to other metals. Iron was used for essential items such as agricultural tools, weapons, and cooking implements. Blacksmiths also feature in Celtic mythology, and certain gods were given forging and metalworking skills. In Gaelic Scotland, blacksmiths were credited with healing powers by holding their hammer over the sufferer. Celtic women enjoyed a better social status than their contemporaries in Greece and Rome. Celtic women could rule in their own right. Two cases of this can be found in Britain. The first case is Cartum de Mandua, ruler of the Brigantes tribe in the north of England. In the mid-1st century AD, Cartimandua is said to have given up a fugitive Celtic prince to the Romans. Boudica, the queen of the Iceni tribe, led a revolt of several tribes against the Roman occupation in 60 AD. Boudica was successful in capturing London and Colchester, among other Roman strongholds. Boudica led her army in person, and there were perhaps women warriors in some Celtic armies. The Celtic pantheon included women such as the Irish Celtic trio war goddess Morrigan. Another indicator of women's status is burial sites. The Vix burial near Châtillon-sur-Seine in northeast France dates to the late 6th century BC. The grave shows that some Celtic women were given just as much respect and attention in their burial as men. The deceased woman was placed on a four-wheeled wagon. The items buried with her include a massive bronze crater, golden torque necklace made of Baltic amber, and a brooch with exotic decoration. All of these items illustrate that whoever the woman was, the Celts were prepared to dedicate a great deal of time and wealth to her burial, suggesting that she was a person of significant importance in the community that she lived in. Classical authors have noted that in Celtic society, wives were shared between male relatives of the husband. Caesar observed in Gaul the dowry that Celtic women brought to their husbands could be inherited by the woman if their partner died before her. Caesar also noted that husbands had the power of life and death over their wives and their children. Women were also married into different tribes to cement alliances and create lasting bonds between them. Slaves were the lowest class in Celtic communities. Slaves were used as an item for trade, the source being those captured in war or people who could not pay their debts. The Romans conquered much of the Celtic world. Caesar conquered Gaul after defeating the Gallic leader Vercingetorix at the Battle of Alesia in September 52 BC. Britain was conquered by Claudius in 43 AD. Roman local government of Gaul and Britain mirrored that of pre-Roman tribal boundaries. The native Celts were involved in local government. Under Roman rule, the Celts became Romanized and adopted Roman ways of life. Celtic art incorporated Roman influences. Surviving Gallo-Roman art interpreted classical subjects and remained faithful to old traditions. The Gauls served in the Roman army as cavalry. The Romans adopted the Celtic cavalry sword, the Sparta, and the Celtic horse goddess Epona. Thank you for watching, everyone.